wild rice is referred to as the gift of the Creator. Manomin translates into good seed. Mano means good. When you put the min on there, that refers to seed, so it's good seed, Manomin. We harvest it every year because it is abundant and it's available every year. Some years are a lot better than others. And the nice thing about wild rice too is it stores for a really long time.
So this lays flat in the canoe. And,
oh yeah.
So we have some way to grab the rice if we get any. So you see this patch out here, that's where we were and we gathered it before. And it's kind of brown, really brown now. Yeah. So we're hoping that we're still going to get some off of that. That's where I got the sample from, that area. And all up in here, there's tons.
I love harvesting wild rice. It takes two people, and it takes one person that's a really strong paddler to pull your way through the rice. And the other person, it's easier, in my opinion anyway, to do the actual harvesting, where you take one pole and pull the rice over the canoe and whack it like this, and some of the rice falls into the canoe and some of it falls into the lake. And that's important because that perpetuates the rice. Some of the seeds falling to the ground. The shape of the wild rice has a heavy end and it has barbs on it, so it actually sticks into the soil.
Some of it will literally come up the next year that it drops into the water and works its way into the soil at the bottom of the lake. Others will germinate in 2 years. Other seeds will germinate in 3 years, and really viable up to about 7 years. And that's pretty neat, because then if you have a bad year, there's enough seed that's viable that will come up. That's why it becomes such a great resource, because if you have one bad year, in a year or two, it's going to be okay. If you understand those cycles, then areas that are in competition with lily pads or pickerelweed, things like that, then you reseed those places as they're needed. But you know that next year you might not get much of a germination, but in a couple of years, that upper bed, I don't know if you guys remember when you canoed down from where Harold lives, the first bed, Harold and I seeded that probably about 15 years ago, and it's really the best bed of all. At one time, there was hardly any rice there at all. It had gone through a long cycle of depletion. We reseeded it, and now it's really in the last 15 years, it's the best bed of all.
Mm-hmm. Going back to when the settlers first come in, they set up sawmills. At the same time, my ancestors built the rice from Rice Lake. Planted here and took off a little bit. Those days, it was really an issue whether you're Indian or not. It's more if you're handy. If you're handy and not doing anything and you want something to do, it'll take you down ricing. There used to be someone that we kept about here in the Crown Lake, but they built a bench dam in there, raised the water about a foot, and they lost it.
Indigenous people were really horticulturalists in a lot of ways. That information, that knowledge is passed on from one generation to another. It's not just about, these are the things we eat, but it's how to get those things and how to behave in relationship to the things that you eat, so that there's always an abundance that you can harvest. Indigenous knowledge isn't something that's just rooted in the past in sort of a glass jar. Our ancestors understood these processes, and the knowledge that they passed on over generation carried all of that knowledge.
I've been harvesting for about 20 years, and I did my master's research in geography on the wild rice standoff, where the province issued a permit to some commercial harvester to come in and take the rice, and it took 4 years for the community to finally win their rights to the rice back. And that was simply the province agreeing to not issue a harvesting license to anybody else, because it wasn't worth their while, because the community was so adamant that it belonged to them. There was the Aboriginal community, so the Algonquins. There was various status allies, and there was non-native allies on one side, and the Monarch Wild Rice, so the company, and the MNO, the Ministry of Natural Resources, and the rest of the levels of government on the other side. The local community used the word local. You know, it belongs to the local people, the people who have a relationship with the land, and the government would use the word local to mean anyone within a geographic boundary. The community talked about conservation in terms of the relationship the rice had to the economy of the area, to the fish and the waterfowl that support that economy, and the whole relationship between people and the natural world, and the place that the rice had in that. Whereas the government talked about it in terms of use of the rice and making a profit from it. And that's what they used that's how they use the word conservation. So you have to be really careful when you're reading things in the newspaper and that kind of stuff about conflicts over things like wild rice, to read between the lines. What is it that they're actually talking about? Who's doing the talking, and what do they actually mean with those words that they're using?